All right, the last section that we're going to talk about is the value of biodiversity. Direct value, we can measure the value of biodiversity in two ways, direct value and indirect value. Indirect value, we're going to see that species perform services from which humans can derive a direct economic value. This is considered to have direct value to humans. These kinds of things include medicinal value, agricultural value, consumptive use value. So just to kind of give some examples of those, medicinal value. For example, most of the prescription drugs currently used in the United States were originally derived from living organisms. This industry is worth about $200 billion a year. Just an example of some of the medicinal value that we've derived from biodiversity would be the rosy periwinkle. It's a flower from Madagascar. It's a tropical plant that has provided us with useful medicines. Potent chemicals from this plant are now used to treat two forms of cancer, leukemia and Hodgkin's disease. And these drugs have significantly increased survival rates for children with these cancers. Increased the survival rate from 10% to 90%. Other examples include the use of penicillin to treat bacterial infections. The blood of the horseshoe crab limulus contains a substance known as limulus amoebocyte lysate, which is used to ensure that medical devices remain free of bacteria. So we have a lot of direct medicinal value from the biodiversity that we find around the world. Agricultural value. Agricultural value is huge. Wheat, corn, rice, they're all going to be derived from wild plants that were once modified to increase their yield. Natural predators of plants, plant pests, have been introduced to agricultural systems to help reduce the impact of pests on plant yields and to also help reduce the use of pesticides. If we can find natural predators of plant pests, then we don't have to use nearly as many organic chemicals. Consumptive use value. Humans have had success in cultivating crops, domesticating animals, growing trees and plantations, etc. However, agricultural or aquacultural, the growing of fish and shellfish for human consumption, has yet to become a large means of human welfare. Most freshwater marine harvests have to be hunted rather than grown via aquaculture for human consumption. So we heavily rely on the biodiversity. We heavily rely on that as a food source because we simply do not have the ability to supplement our needs with fish farms yet. Additional products associated with the environment can be sold commercially. Things like wild fruits, vegetables, skins, fibers, beeswax, seaweed. Profits from the sale of these products provides a huge economic benefit to the human population. There is also such a thing as the indirect value. This is going to be based on the services that ecosystems provide that do not have a necessary measurable economic value. Things like biogeochemical cycles, waste recycling, provision of fresh water, prevention of soil erosion, regulation of climate. All of these things are hugely important and heavily reliant on the introduction of biodiversity. But they do not necessarily have a direct measurable economic value. Biogeochemical cycles. The biodiversity within ecosystems contributes to the workings of the water, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and other biogeochemical cycles. Humans are going to be dependent on these cycles for fresh water, the removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the uptake of excess soil nitrogen, and the provision of phosphate. Humans can upset the biogeochemical cycles and have a negative environmental consequences which can affect humans. We also rely on biodiversity for waste recycling. Decomposers break down dead organic matter and other types of waste into inorganic nutrients that can be used by producers in ecosystems. This function aids humans. The human population dumps millions of tons of wasted material into natural ecosystems each year, and if it were not for the decomposition, waste would soon cover the entire surface of the earth. The provision of fresh water. The water cycle continually supplies fresh water to terrestrial ecosystems. Humans use this fresh water in innumerable ways. Freshwater ecosystems provide us with a large diversity of species that we can use as a source of food. Forests and some other natural ecosystems soak up water and release it at a regular rate, thereby reducing flooding. Forests also release water slowly, forests can release water slowly for days or weeks after rains have ceased. Can also prevent soil erosion. Intact ecosystems naturally retain soil and prevent soil erosion. The importance of this attribute is particularly observed after deforestation, which results in silt buildup. So, example, the mangrove ecosystem in the Philippines. Deforestation led to an erosion and silt buildup that is destroying the natural estuaries like the mangroves. Regulation of climate. Trees provide shade and reduce the need for fans and air conditioners in the summer. Globally, forests restore the climate by incorporating carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and reduction of the forests reduces carbon dioxide uptake and oxygen output through photosynthesis. Large-scale deforestation is changing the Earth's climate. The last indirect value seems a little bit sort of out there. It's not one that we think of too commonly, but it is actually very important. Ecotourism. In the United States, millions of people spend billions of dollars each year on fees, travel, lodging, and food because they enjoy vacationing in natural settings. Many underdeveloped countries in tropical regions take advantage of this by offering eco-tours of the local biodiversity. So there are a lot of small local economies that heavily rely on ecotourism as a way to fund their lives. Massive changes in biodiversity can have significant impacts on the ecosystem. Ecosystem performance improves with increasing biodiversity, and the rate of photosynthesis also increases as biodiversity increases. Diverse ecosystems are much better able to withstand environmental changes and invasions by other species. And that's it for this chapter. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I would be happy to discuss anything you would like to during our discussion groups. All right, and that is all for this evening.